Hey, it's Cristy. I'm really excited to share this fun technique for hand embroidery meets English paper piecing with you today. It is a really fun way to put together English paper piecing projects and give just a fun, different sparkle or look to your English paper piecing. If you take a look here, it's this little stitch that's on top through the seam there on this little project. This is a peacock, or the Peacock by Violet Craft. I'm going to demonstrate it on some hexagons because I'm still putting this all together, so it'll be a little hard to show you on here, but you can see if you look at the seams of these green and orange pieces that I have put in some hand embroidery. So let me tell you about what I'm using. I have my fabrics here. This is a solid by Art Gallery Fabrics. I have my glue. My favorite glue stick is just the Elmer's washable school glue stick. There's other glue basting sticks and other ways to baste. You can thread baste. This is just my preference for today. And some pre-cut hexagons, my needles. I'm actually using milliner's needles, which is a little bit different than some English paper piecers use. I like the milliner's because from the eye through the shaft of the needle down to where the point begins, it's all the same thickness, so you're not kind of yanking on that eye to pull it through, because it's not thicker than the shaft of the needle. And then the thread that I'm using is silk perlee. It's called soie perlee. It's one of my favorite hand embroidery threads. I will tell you, if you are using cotton pearl or pearl cotton, whichever way you say it, and you try this stuff, you may not go back to cotton ever again. I do sell quite a lot of this on my website, and I'll be adding more and more as time goes on. So these are the supplies I'll be using, and let's go ahead and get started. Let me shove these out of the way. I'm going to use this aqua along with this turquoise. I like the contrast. You'll be able to see the stitches pretty well. So I've already cut my fabric pieces out, and they are 1/4 inch bigger on all sides of my 1 inch hexagon. 1 inch hexagon means it's 1 inch on each side. There are many sizes you can use. And to get started, I'm going to just do a little dab of glue just to anchor it in place so the hexagon isn't sliding all over my fabric. And I'm just going to tap it. If you know me and know my glue basting, I usually heat set, but I don't heat set with hexagons, especially with the paper, because that makes the bond too strong, and I want to be able to peel these papers out. And if the bond with the glue is too strong, it rips and it makes a mess. So I just, it's more just to use the tackiness of it. So I keep that in place, and then I'm going to go ahead and put glue across the edge of the paper. I try and avoid getting it at the top edge of the hexagon just so it doesn't stick to the fabric too. And then kind of go around. You can do every other or every one. It doesn't really matter. There's no wrong way to do it. I am going every other here. And if you get glue on your fingers, don't worry. Sometimes when I teach classes like this, I put on the supply list to bring a washcloth, and everybody's like, what in the world do I need a washcloth for? What kind of class is this? And I say, it's to wash the glue off your hands. Everybody gets sticky. And if it doesn't stick, just put a little bit more. There we go. Give it a good little press with your fingers to keep it in place. All right. And if you need to, kind of just finger press it from the front to push that all down. And then do the same with the other one. And if you're doing this for a hexagon flower, it looks so beautiful. While I haven't made an entire quilt this way, I've done several projects, little small things, pillows, things like that. And it's just is so pretty with that embroidery thread. Whether you use floss, you can use a floss if you like. I like the perlee because it's a really nice weight and it shows up so nice and pretty. And I love the silk because it's shiny and gives it a really beautiful sparkle. See, now you noticed I didn't do every other one. Sometimes when I start talking, I just start going and I'm not thinking about it. So as you can see, there isn't a wrong way to do it. You can do it either way and it will turn out just fine. Okay, flip it over, give it a little finger press. All right, now, to get started with this, it is a little bit different than regular English paper piecing because we are going to put wrong sides together. We're going to work from the front. I know, it's a little odd, but that's how it works. Otherwise, your pretty stitch would be on the back side. And then I've already threaded my needle. And I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot. Some English paper piecers tie a knot before, some after. For this, with the perlee, I'm doing it before because when I tie a knot after and it's on there, that knot gets really thick when I tie a knot with the pieces together. Did you all see how I did that knot? I just thought for a second that maybe you don't know how to do that knot. So what I'm doing here, I'm holding the needle in my right hand. If you're a lefty, just do the same, but in your left hand. And I'm putting the needle on top of the thread on top of my pointer finger, and I'm wrapping the thread on top. 2 to 3 times is plenty. Hold it with your fingers, pull it on through, and you get a lovely little knot. Isn't that great? All right, now we're ready to start. Now the stitch I'm doing is basically a whip stitch meets blanket stitch. So I'm going to first just kind of set my needle in here. Now where I am setting it, so you can see, it's kind of in the folded corner. So that way the knot will tuck in the back inside. I just don't want it to show on the front. You can push that little guy in there if it pops up like mine did. And then I'm grabbing the corner of the next one. Now usually you would from here start whip stitching this with right sides together, of course, but instead I'm going to actually go down. You can try going up, but I like how it looks going down better. Tuck that thing in there, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a bite of the fabric on top and of both pieces, just going straight across as if you're doing a whip stitch. Try not on that first stitch, sometimes that knot wants to get into the mix, but just push them out of the way. So going across, and once you do that, wrap your thread behind the needle like you would with a blanket stitch for hand embroidery, and then pull it, and see, look, you see that stitch there? Isn't that cute? And then you just keep going. Try and space your stitches out as evenly as possible. Just going straight across, wrap that thread across the top. Otherwise, you're just doing a regular whip stitch. Now, you could do this with a whip stitch. It wouldn't look as pretty as I think. I mean, it's just my opinion. I like how that blanket stitch starts to make it look. So when you open it up, you get a really pretty stitch on top. So let's go ahead and finish up this little edge so you can see what it looks like. Okay, put that thread behind the needle and pull, making sure to do that. Okay, thread behind the needle. It's kind of interesting doing this with doing a video because I have to watch what I'm doing, plus make sure that I'm keeping it on the screen for you. See how that looks? I love it. I think it looks so neat. All right, we're almost to the end. Now, if you're doing hexagon flowers and you get to the end and you want to add on another, you could just keep going with the same needle and thread. So you wouldn't have to tie off if you didn't want to. All right, we're almost to the end. If you do tie off, make sure your knot is nice and secure so it doesn't unravel. And let's see. Okay, so I'll come to this end part here, go through those little corners, put that thread behind the needle one last time. Okay, now take a look. Oh, isn't that so cute? You can do contrasting colors, complementary. You could color match. You could really do whatever your heart desires here. And then what I'm doing now is I'm just putting the needle and thread into the back side. So that way when I tie off a knot, the knot is on the back side rather than trying to poke out the front. So I'm going to wrap the thread around the needle on the back side, hold it in place. This is very similar to what I did at the beginning. And a lot of you probably do this already. And then cut that off. Leave about at least a ½ inch. So that way if you need to, you can, it won't unravel, or you can anchor it with a little bit of fabric glue. So what do you think? I think it's just such a fun, different way to add a little something extra to your English paper piecing. Now on this peacock, I did the face and beak. I joined all of these with a ladder stitch. I'll have to show you that in a different video. I did not use a whip stitch, but the stitching is invisible. But now for this part where the plumes, the feathers are going to be, I'm adding the embroidery thread because peacocks are sparkly and fabulous creatures, so it needed a little something extra. I think it is a lot of fun. So give it a try. I hope you enjoyed this and it was helpful to you and your creative journey. And I will be back soon with some more videos. See you guys later.